Alright, so this is a follow-up video that I did for my mini split install. This is the inside unit. I think the last video I showed actually had only the outside unit in it. And somebody had asked for what the inside unit looked like. So this is it. I don't have it on right now, but trust me, it works very well. This is the line hide that I put on the inside, and then I did pass the wires in the tubing through the bottom of the wall right there, and it works very well. We just got back from a 2-week trip, and we drove it pretty much all over Central and East Texas and used this as our primary cooling source. Most of the time we got to the campsites, it was close to 100, if not right at, and turned this thing on, as well as the 11,000 BTU roof unit that we have in our living room, or bedroom area, I guess. And it cooled the camper down fairly well. It helped that some of the campsites we got were shaded. That was a substantial boost. But yeah, it works pretty well. The line hide does look a little bulky on the inside, and I could have painted it another color to perhaps help it blend into the wall a little bit better, but it happened to be the color of paint that I had, and it was a neutral color, more or less blended in, and it seems to hide the line pretty well. Now, one thing I will point out, that if you're going to try to do this in a older Jayco, which this is a 2007 model fifth wheel with the rear bunks and everything. You see, my kids prefer the colorful blankets and whatnot. But this back wall here is extremely thin. It's essentially 2 sheets of Luan laminated together with some styrofoam, about I would say about 1.5 inches of styrofoam in between. So if you're going to put anything substantial in here, I would reconsider that. I started this project and then realized that this wall was so thin that well, I just had to continue. And what I'm doing what I did to make sure the thing stayed on the wall while I was traveling, was I literally used about 20 of those wall anchors, maybe even more. If there was a hole in the backing plate that I could fit an anchor into, I went ahead and filled it and put an anchor in it, and put a screw in it. So it's fairly substantial. It's not going to come off of there, unless you really just yank on it, which I don't intend to do. And we had traveled probably last 2 weeks, roughly about 500 miles, 600 miles or so. And the thing did well. I mean, it's obviously still on the wall. And we hit some pretty good bumps. A lot of back roads, and even, well, unfortunately, some of the worst roads that we had were on the interstate system. And, once a semi hits a hole, it just gets bigger, and then everybody else hits it and just keeps continuously getting bigger and bigger. But it held on every single one of those bumps. I mean, we were wondering if the trailer was still going to be back there on some of the bumps that we hit. Now, what I did do is, this is actually a slide. If you can't really tell, me back up here a little bit. So this entire thing here is a slide, and it fills up this. Well, it slides into this room right here. And what I found was the edge of this slide here comes out, I don't know, maybe about 6 or 7 inches beyond the end of the inside unit. And what I did to help it stay in there was I just took some of this egg crate foam and maneuvered it up between the inside unit and the edge of that slide, and it just gives it a little bit of support. So if the unit's going to come off, it's going to fall off, this way, if it goes anywhere. And that egg crate plus the slide being there, I think helped substantially with keeping it intact. I don't know that it provided much structural support, but it was obviously enough to keep it on the wall. With probably the 20 to 30 wall anchors that I put in there, and that egg crate foam, It stayed put. And the air that it puts out is super ice cold. I mean, if I wanted to cool off, I just park me a little chair in this area right here and let it go. And it cooled the camper off really well. So pretty pleased with it. If you guys are considering it, please feel free to ask any questions. Just know that it does take a considerable amount of work to get one of these things installed. And if you're a DIY type of guy, it's certainly doable. I'm not an AC expert. I wound up borrowing a pump from somebody, reading up on how to do it, and it helped that I'd already installed 2 of these units in locations in my house. So I already knew what I was getting into. So this was a little bit more challenging though, just because of the space considerations, power considerations, and whatnot. I think I'd do it again, and hopefully it's a good benefit to us whenever we start using this thing in the wintertime. And the thing is, well, we use the mini split to provide heat instead of the propane or an electric furnace. I think it'll do pretty well, especially down here in South Texas and East Texas as well. Anyway, that's the inside unit. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to ask.